What's up, everybody? Good to have you here. Good Monday morning to all of you. Yes, I do mean you. I am Emerson Lotzi. You are watching The Sweat presented by DraftKings. So coming up, Justin Thomas proves he is not a one-hit wonder. We're going to chase and fade a little bit on the diamond. We're going to see who you should roster tonight. Couple game fours, right? On the ice. We're also going to see how a few new offensive staffs around the NFL, how that's going to impact some fantasy studs. So you want to stick around for that. Let's start doing basketball. We got two stud muffins right over here on the big screen. DraftKings contributors Nick Fryer and Matty Meiselman. Guys, the Warriors just dunk on the Mavs last night. They take a 3-0 series lead, one win away from the NBA Finals. Fryer, why have the Warriors been so difficult to beat for Dallas?
Well, I mean, I just think when you look at Dallas, too, man, I mean, you got Jalen Brunson putting up 20 in that game. Dinwiddie's putting up 26. And obviously, Luka was a big part of that, comeback that was all for naught. 21 points in the fourth quarter and 40 overall in the game. I think you're just seeing right now with Dallas that, yes, Luka is blossoming and everything, and they have some solid pieces, but they're just not quite there. And the Warriors are obviously a complete team, even though they've been dealing with injuries. They know how to deal with this kind of stuff. This is what happens in the postseason, and their core pieces have been there before. So as much as I've liked the Mavericks run, this is why going into this series, this seemed like a clear, no questions asked, the Warriors are going to walk away with this one. I didn't think it was going to look like a sweep, but that's clearly what we're getting right now.
Yeah, Matty, the Mavs have been able to overcome their shortcomings this postseason with their three-point shooting, but when those shots are not falling, Warriors, they're a team that takes full advantage of that.
Yeah, so I have to try to figure out what's going on here because I picked Utah over Dallas, and then I picked Dallas over Golden State.
Oh,
so
God.
this is looking
You're the
really
worst.
good for
so
me
really,
right now.
we shouldn't be asking
awful.
we shouldn't be asking you your opinion on this because it's going to be wrong either way.
Next question. I can't do this one. No, I think Dallas's role players are just not playing like they did last round. I personally am not sure if last round was against Utah was the real version of the Mavs or if it's this version where Reggie Bullock just isn't good and Maxi Kleber just isn't good. I do think that those are solid players, and maybe they overachieved a little bit against the Jazz, and we shouldn't have expected such great things from them. What's really surprised me the most, though, is how depleted the Warriors have been during some of these games in terms of their roster, and that they've still managed to hold leads or come back in games. Like, we don't have Gary Payton II. We don't have Andre Iguodala. We have Draymond Green in foul trouble almost every night. Last night in the second half, there was no Otto Porter Jr., and Kevon Looney has turned into Shaquille O'Neal, basically. So if he's going to be a really good player now, then I have to reevaluate how I think about Golden State. But I do think Dallas is underachieving. Like, we've seen them miss tons of open threes. It's not like all these shots are contested. So it's a little bit of the Mavs playing worse than they really are. And it's a little bit of these Warriors role players really stepping up.
All right, teams with a 3-0 series lead have a 146-0 series record all time. Fryer, I'll ask you this really quick, too. I've seen this question thrown around on social media quite a bit. Are the Warriors entering another dynasty here?
Oh, come on.
Come on,
I know
what?
entering another dynasty, that's what the question is now. That's ridiculous. I mean, first of all, you have to win the title for that to happen.
Yeah.
And second, you got to win multiple ones for that to happen. People just want the next big thing all the time.
Yeah.
They can never be satisfied with what they have in the moment.
Love it.
Get out of my face with that.
Love it, love it. Okay, sounds good. Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight, Matty. Game 3 Saturday was ugly, riddled with injuries, and a boatload of turnovers. Look at you. Yeah, that's right. 23 by your Celtics, man. Can Ime and the media here stop pushing this quarters narrative, please, Matty?
I think I might be the one person who hates it more than you. It doesn't mean anything.
Thank you. This
It's
isn't
so
boxing.
silly.
It's not boxing, dude.
It's not boxing, and it's even worse than boxing because when you have a horrible quarter, it's actually easier to play well the next quarter because the other team lets off the gas a little and vice versa. Like, there are score effects in a basketball game where if a team's down a lot, the other team kind of lets them back in. They don't try as hard, and then it goes the other way. So, I can't possibly care any less about the quarters narrative.
Yeah. Fryer, can the Celtics play something resembling a normal game? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is one of the teams in the league that's best at responding to terrible performances or choke performances. We saw it in the Milwaukee series. Obviously, they bounced back in game 2 after the winning 3 quarters and losing the one against the Heat in game 1. I do think that does mean something in the sense that when the Celtics are playing like crap, because that's exactly what they did in game 3. I mean, some of the passes that they made were embarrassing. I don't know how this, I'm like in a rec league game, I would be embarrassed with some of the passes that Marcus Smart and Tatum and Brown were making. But yeah, I think of course they can bounce back. They just have to be like the team that they usually are. Because I don't think the Heat, honestly, like those 2 quarters, yeah, they've played well, but I think the Celtics have handed them both their wins this series.
Yeah, and I believe the Celtics, right, haven't lost back-to-back games this postseason. So they lose a game, they tend to respond pretty well.
Here's the jinx, everybody.
Okay, yes, that's right. Mark the tape. So game 4, let's dive into it a little more here, Fryer. Like, who's your top DFS play for Miami and Boston? Because these 2 injury reports, I'm looking at it, they're very long. Several star players, including Marcus Smart, Hero, Tatum, Butler, they're all on there.
This is why you got to make sure you're following DK Live over on Twitter, because we're going to keep you guys up to date on everything. Because I'm looking at this right now and thinking, all right, where's the value play that I'm going to find in this one? Of course, with Smart and Time Lord, questionable. I think Smart's going to play. I would think Time Lord less likely. Grant Williams is my favorite value option. We're looking at any of the value plays tonight. But if Smart doesn't play, Peyton Pritchard becomes a lot better at 5K. But I think Grant Williams is the safest one here, because you know he's going to get minutes, and you know he's going to get up some shots as well too, and of course active on the glass. From the Heat though, I think there is a little bit greater chance at value too, because you look at Victor Oladipo. If Jimmy Butler, even if he plays, I think Oladipo at 4.4K can be a really good option, just because we know he's going to get a decent amount of minutes, and we saw him put up some pretty decent fantasy numbers despite not taking only 4 shots in that last game. But if Kyle Lowry does not play, because he is questionable, and those are the only 2 guys when you're looking at questionable tags on the Heat side that you can take seriously. If Kyle Lowry does not play, Gabe Vincent is definitely going to be the best value option tonight.
All right, Matty, what do you want to do here? And obviously, people should probably wait until later tonight, start building those lineups a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really know yet, so I guess I'll just take this opportunity to weigh in a little more on the injury situations. I'm a little more concerned about Smart than I am about Robert Williams. Like, the Smart ankle sprain, I don't know. I have no idea how he got back in that game. And he hit a 3 his first offensive possession, but he didn't look good. And he's as tough as he may be as tough as he should be playing for the Bruins. Like, he's as tough as anyone in professional sports. And Jimmy Butler, I don't think his injury is as serious as Smart's injury. So Butler's fine. I think Butler plays. Lowry looked pretty good. I think he plays. The 2 players I'm most worried about sitting, I think, are Smart, because I think what Udoka has been saying about Robert Williams is it's just inflammation, and when he gets a few days off, he can just get back out there. We have to worry about him the rest of the series, but I think he'll be okay to play tonight. But I think Tyler Hero has a real chance to sit out this game. Like, he played awful, and like, they don't really need him. Like, he could be a DNP coach's decision, honestly, like, even if he's healthy, because Oladipo just dramatically outplayed him. And with Lowry back too, like, it's crazy that this didn't get talked about more, but even without Butler, Hero basically sat the 4th quarter because Lowry and Oladipo were just outplaying him to such an extent. And it's because Hero doesn't play defense. Like, his defense is virtually non-existent. And defense is very important at this point in this. I mean, it's important always, but it's even more important right now. So I think Butler plays. I think Lowry plays. And then to Nick's point, I think you do want to look at Oladipo even in that scenario, because I could see him stealing Hero's minutes even if Hero's healthy.
All right, let's talk about player prop here, Fryer. Which one is your favorite? I'm looking at Jason Tatum, 27.5. We mentioned the Celtics kind of bouncing back here. Look at this. Opening round, Tatum followed a 19-point performance in Game 2 with 39 in Game 3, conference semifinals, 10 points in Game 3, followed that up with 30 in Game 4.
Yep, 100%. I mean, I was hoping that we were going to see this at 29.5, never mind 27.5. And at minus 110 last I checked over on DK Sportsbook. I absolutely love this one tonight. I was trying to get a feel on his points plus assists or maybe points plus rebounds, but looking at what he's done in these last couple games too, he's only taken 14 and 13 shots. Obviously, last game was 3 for 14 from the floor and 1 for 7 from deep. I mean, that is cartoonishly bad. Jason Tatum is not going to have a back-to-back performance like that. As much as he's probable because of what that shoulder impingement thing that he's got going on, I'm not too worried about that. This is a guy who's, again, we've seen him step up in big moments. In the Celtics, they're in a must-win spot, so there's no chance he's going to leave it up for chance and not go and try and ram some points down their throats.
Yeah, is there a prop you like tonight, Matty? Bam Adebayo had 16 points in just the first 2 games of the series. We saw him explode in Game 3. His points total tonight is 16.5.
Well, if for some reason Butler doesn't play, then the over on that looks incredible. But
Okay.
I do think Butler will be out there. So where I'm looking for now, I think without any news, I think the under on Marcus Smart at 14 and a half points is reasonable. Like I could see him playing, but playing reduced minutes. So you could go points, you could go points, rebounds, assists. He's going to do everything he can to play, but that doesn't mean he finishes the game. It doesn't mean he can play his full rotation. So I think looking at unders there makes some sense. And then if we do get some news, it kind of seems like the Celtics prefer using Peyton Pritchard over Derek White at this point in the playoffs. And especially if they have Robert Williams and Al Horford in the game already, the defense is going to be solid, and then it's easier to make up for Pritchard's defensive deficiencies. So I think that Pritchard probably does find himself playing a few extra minutes. And then if Smart's out, we'll see where that line gets to. It's actually not listed right now. So for now, it's the under on Smart, but I'd keep an eye on Pritchard too.
And then, Maddie, what's just your favorite bet? What's the bet in this game tonight? Current line, Celtics 6-point favorites at home, total 207.5 there.
So I'll give two things because I love the Mavericks for tomorrow because I think Otto Porter Jr. sits, and I think they'll try hard enough where they should win the game. But for tonight, it's a wait and see. And what I'm specifically waiting for is if Hero gets ruled out, I really like the under for the game because Hero is like the only player on the Heat roster where his offense vastly outpaces his defense. Most of the Miami players do it on both ends of the floor, and some of them are defense-only players like Bam Adebayo. Besides Game 3, he's really a defense-first guy. PJ Tucker is a defense-only guy for the most part. But Hero's the opposite, and if you take Hero out of the game, I think Miami's offense gets worse, and I think their defense gets better. So that probably brings the total of the game down from 207.5 to, let's say, like 204. So if you catch that news, I think the odds may be slow to update for that. But if Hero's ruled out, I think you can get the under, and you'll have some time to do it.
Yeah, he was terrible in Game 3, Fryer, and was actually benched in favor of Victor Oladipo, who was phenomenal on defense there.
Yeah, he had 4 steals in that game too. But I'm looking over at the Celtics side of this because I do think they're going to respond. I do think they're going to win this game. And I think when you're trying to find the best way to get your bang for your buck here, looking at the Celtics points total, over 106.5. They should have gone over this last game. They missed 7 free throws when they had 30 attempts. If they just hit 4 of those, they go over this mark. But even then, when they've won throughout the postseason, they're hitting the over on this number. And last game was the first time they've gone under 107 points since Game 3 of their series versus the Bucks. So they've been hammering this, and tonight's a good time to hammer that.
All right, guys, appreciate the help. Everyone enjoy Game 4 tonight between the Heat and Celtics. We're going to cover the bases, talking some Major League Baseball DFS plays and best bets right after this. All right, it is time to cover the bases. Let's talk some baseball bets. Let's talk some baseball DFS plays with these two gentlemen. We got RotoWire's Eric Halterman, DraftKings contributor Nick Fryer sticking around for us. First base here, dudes. Best DFS pitcher. Eric, I'm told you're going cheap.
Yeah, so it's an interesting slate because there's not a lot of guys that you really like. There's Garrett Cole and Zach Wheeler at the top. And man, I don't trust much in the middle. You might be able to find one or two, but I think a lot of people are going to want one of those two expensive guys. So I think you have to pair him with Marco Gonzalez way down there at 5,300. I am not a Marco Gonzalez guy, despite his 3.08 ERA. ERA estimators are all much higher than that. He doesn't strike out anybody. Normally, I'm all about the strikeouts here. But he's given up a combined 7 earned runs over his last 4 starts against the Astros, Rays, Mets, and Jays, and he gets a lineup that's definitely none of those this time. The A's, who rank second last in Team WRC+, their highest WRC+ among their regulars is Sheldon Noisy at 106. It's not at all a pretty lineup there. So even though I don't love Gonzalez himself, he's at least a competent pitcher, and seeing him way down the board on a day with so few reliable options in the middle definitely makes me interested.
Okay, Fryer, what do you want to do here? Best DFS pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, Gonzalez is one of the guys that I'm looking at today for sure. I mean, Oakland has, a 24.5 K rate against left-handed pitching. Obviously, this is not a strikeout pitcher, but they're going to help boost him in lower third in baseball in terms of OPS, ISO, and WOBA against left-handed pitching. So, yes, I'm with Eric on this one on Marco Gonzalez at 5.3 K. But if you're looking at the higher-end guys, Garrett Cole is the guy I'd rather go with. I know with Wheeler, possible rain-out situation, it looks like it's more than likely going to be a delay. But with Cole as the highest price option, he's going up against a team I know that I fade guys when they're facing the same lineup in back-to-back games, but it's the Orioles. They're bottom 10 against right-handed pitching, and I know they don't strike out a ton against righties, but with Cole, still, we know we're going to get the innings. We know we can limit the offensive production, and still, he can rack up strikeouts against anybody. So I'm not worried about any of that kind of that normal trend that I kind of follow.
All right, as we continue to cover the bases next, second base, best DFS hitter.
Yeah, so I know I mentioned the rain delay thing, so you got to keep tabs on this one because I do like Ronald Acuna the most in this one tonight at 6.1K. Against Wheeler, he's done well against him throughout his career with 28 career at-bats, 3 home runs, 2 doubles. This month, Acuna has 3 doubles and a home run against right-handed pitching with a 57.1% hard contact rate and a sub-10% soft contact rate. Acuna hasn't hit a home run either since, May 7th? So at some point, that's got to happen. He's got a couple doubles over his last 3 games. So I love him in this spot. But again, got to keep tabs on the weather there. If that game ends up getting bumped, then Pete Alonso becomes my favorite guy at 5.3K. Obviously, had a good series against San Francisco in late April. And he's got, 6 doubles and 4 home runs this month. And only 2 of those extra base hits have come against left-handed pitching. And he's got a 45.7% hard contact rate against righties. So Acuna is my favorite guy. But if they run into a rain delay, make some room for Alonso in your lineup.
Eric, who are you confident in tonight for swinging good wood?
Yeah, I like a guy who's tied with Acuna in points per game and doesn't have to face Zach Wheeler. He gets to face Adrian Hauser instead, and that's Manny Machado. Just 4,900. He's tied for 38th most expensive hitter, and again, tied with Acuna for 3rd in points per game. Ranks 3rd in the league in WRC Plus as well. Suddenly, he's a true power speed threat this year, which I don't know how long the speed component of that will last, but Kyle Tucker is the only other guy with at least 7 homers and 7 steals this season. Machado's doing that while leading the league with a 374 average, and that's inflated by a 424 batting average on balls in play, but his expected batting average of 311 is still excellent. He's having one of his best seasons, and again, facing Adrian Hauser, who has a decent ERA, but isn't anything to be scared of. He's a ground ball type guy who doesn't miss a lot of bats. So I like Machado a lot for sub 5,000 here.
All right, let's go to the hot corner here. Third base, best DFS value. What do you got, Nick?
Yeah, Jonathan Scope, and I know when you look at his average, as much as we don't put too much stock in average, it's like sub 2. So yeah, it's not exactly appealing, but at 3.4K, he's going up against a guy who he has smoked throughout the course of his career, and he's gotten 40 plate appearances against Chris Archer, excuse me. Sorry, Eric. For 15 for 40 with 6 home runs and 3 doubles against Archer. And I know he struggled against righties throughout the course of the season. He hasn't really done great against lefties either. But Scope does have a 51.2% hard hit rate or hard contact rate against righties this month with a couple of home runs and a double.
All right, Eric, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm going to turn to a guy that I've turned to often for this question, but there's good reason for it, and that's Darren Ruff at 3,600. The guy is just an absolute lefty masher. For his career, he's got a 937 OPS against lefties compared to a 688 OPS against righties. So I want no part of him against same-sided pitching, but he performs like some of the best hitters in the league when he gets the platoon advantage. And he's very inexpensive at 3,600 at positions in first base and outfield where you're often looking to go for your most expensive bats. You can get a guy who has that kind of talent when he's facing a lefty like David Peterson, who has a 189 ERA, but that comes in just 19 innings with mediocre peripherals. For his career, 426 ERA, pretty unspectacular underlying numbers. He's a competent enough pitcher, but Ruff crushes pretty much every lefty, and I like him basically every time he faces anybody but the top lefties.
Eric, take us home here, man. Best player prop on the DK Sportsbook for tonight's slate.
We're going to go back to that Phillies Braves game, again, Nick did mention potential delay. Although it's weird, I'm seeing potential delay, but also not seeing all that high a percent chance of rain. So maybe the potential is pretty low there. I'm not too worried. But if the game goes forward, Zach Wheeler over 6.5 strikeouts is one I like a lot. His overall strikeout numbers this season look bad, but that's because he averaged less than 4 strikeouts over his first 3 starts. He'd had a delayed spring dealing with some injuries, but in his last 4 starts, he struck out at least 7 batters, including a season high 9 his last time out. If you go back to the start of last season, he struck out at least 7 batters, 62% of his starts. And surprisingly, Atlanta, while they do have a pretty good offense, they have the highest strikeout rate in the league this season. So I think it's a good spot for Wheeler to do basically what he's done for all of the last 2 years.
Nick, which player prop do you want?
Yeah, Eric and I are going toe-to-toe tonight because I like Ronald Acuna's total bases prop at plus 120 over 1.5. But I do like all my guys to go over 1.5 total bases tonight. I mean, Pete Alonso's at plus 130, Scopes at plus 150. I think obviously the 2 higher price guys in terms of DFS are safer options to go with, and obviously still good bang for your buck. Keep tabs, of course, on Acuna and the weather situation there. If you're only looking to play one, I do like Acuna the most. But if there's a rainout situation, then Alonso is a great option in there playing the later game. So any one of those 3 guys, but Acuna is my number 1.
And oh my God, we have a stolen base. A stolen base here. Best game bet, run line, money line, run total, Nick.
I was not ready for this. I guess I'm going to have to go with the Cardinals money line tonight. I know it's at minus 120, so you got to lay a little bit of juice, but the Jays have not been hitting right-handed pitching at all well, and they've got a tough. Yeah, I know Miles McCollis not necessarily the best DFS option, but a quality pitcher, a guy who's going to go and give you a good outing most days. So he's been solid this season. I actually like the Jays' first 5 innings under 1.5 runs, and that is at plus money. But when you're looking at the money line bet too, Barrios, I know he's coming off a good outing, but it's against the Mariners, so I don't take too much stock in that. And he got shelled the previous 2 outings.
What do you recommend here, Eric?
Nick and I are going to battle more than normal today.
Ooh.
I'm going to take the Jays at plus 100 here. I think it's a really interesting game because it's a test of how much are you still holding on to your preseason expectations of both teams and players. I think if you told me before the season started, you get Jose Barrios against Miles Michaelis, Jays against Cardinals, even money for the Jays, I think you'd take that every time. Barrios hasn't been all that good this season, although, again, he did have a very good start his last time out, as Nick mentioned. And he's been good for, 5 years. Maybe not quite an ace, but clearly the tier right below that, I think. Miles Michaelis, 1.68 ERA this year, but over the last 2 seasons, 4.17. The Cardinals have also been the better offense so far this year, but I don't think many people would expect them to remain better. The rest of the way, I think the Jays have a long way to rise from ranking 20th in WRC Plus right now. So it's a really interesting one. I see the case for going with this season's numbers, but I'm going to keep the faith in what we thought before the season started, given the pretty good odds here.
All right, guys. Much love. Appreciate the help. We got a Canadian talking hockey right after this. Hockey miracles aren't exclusive to the Olympics. One of the rarest accomplishments in the NHL postseason, a 3-0 series comeback out of more than 200 teams in league history to fall into a 3-0 series hole. Only 4 have completed the epic comeback for a series win, most recently the Kings over the Sharks in the 2014 first round. But yeah, 2% chance does not bode well for the trailing team like the Panthers tonight against the Lightning. DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich, whose dog killed a bird this weekend, is here for some opening face-off. Hey, Rangers picked up a win to avoid going down 3-0 to the Hurricanes. And then there was the brawl in Edmonton last night where, Jeff, at the young age of 40 here, Mike Smith is out playing Jacob Markstrom.
Yeah. And shout out to Calgary Flames, lighting a fire under Evander Kane as well. Oilers really showing something. They're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team, but man, they really got it going over the last 20 games of the season. So that series has been everything we've thought it would be so far. A little bit of surprises, but some super back and forth play. Very excited to watch how that one plays out. Oilers definitely with the advantage. I don't know if Mike Smith can keep it up, but you're right. He has definitely outplayed Jakob Markstrom so far. And I mean, if Markstrom doesn't bounce back, like the Flames just can't keep winning shootouts with the Oilers. So we'll see.
Anything else stand out to you over the weekend in all the games?
Yeah,
you
no,
saw?
look, you mentioned the Rangers. I think
Yeah.
the Rangers I think they're still a good play. I really do. Even down 2-0. They didn't pay off for me in the first two games betting them as underdogs, but I just still feel confident. You look at how those two games have gone, the ones they lost, could have easily gone in their direction. This is the team that came back from 3-1 against the Penguins. Sidney Crosby, a veteran-laden team. You got the Hurricanes here, riding your Andrew Ranta and net. Shesterkin, still the advantage there. I think it tips back to the Rangers. I think they tie it up. I think you go bet the Rangers series line still. I'm still a believer in that team.
Okay, yeah, Rangers plus 250 right now to win the series on the DK
I like it.
Sportsbook. Hurricanes minus 320 there. Let's go to the games tonight. Top DFS play in either game. Who do you like?
Yeah, so let's start out with Colorado, St. Louis. I mean, I really like the value you're getting with Nazem Kadri. I love the second line that Colorado's put together, moving Landeskog down there. Obviously, they got Lykinen too at the deadline, but Nazem Kadri is just a guy. He's just a cog for the Colorado Avalanche. He gets first line, power play exposure as well. You've got Ville Husso and net, who obviously, Binnington, throwing water bottles at Kadri, so he's obviously getting under the skin of the Blues. But Kadri breaking through with a couple points in the last game. I think he keeps rolling here. Like I said, really like the line distribution there for Colorado. You can obviously stack him with Landeskog. Probably going to be a little bit less around than the Colorado first line. And look, I mean, you can obviously play some Blues as well. I think that St. Louis is going to make a tight game of this, but I still, you still look at the odds here. They're still favored in Colorado's, favor. Obviously, they got the bigger implied team total on that side. I think Nazem Kadri is a great DFS play tonight for this 2-game slate.
Okay, sweet. Battle of Florida, dude. Back-to-back games here. Is this more an advantage, do you think, for the Panthers or the Lightning?
Back-to-back games. I mean, I would think that I would think it's probably an advantage for the Lightning. I think Florida kind of needs all the space in between time and in between games right now can get just to get its head on straight. I think that with back-to-back games, it's going to be really tough for Florida from the perspective of, even if they grab a win, they're going to have to come right back on the ice. Obviously, it's a short rest as well, veteran team in Tampa Bay. So I don't know. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways this could go, but I'm looking for a close game tonight. I think one thing that I am looking for from this game is for Florida to come out quick early and just with a lot of shots. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to convert, but I'm looking for guys like Huberdeau, Barkov. I think the Cats here, the Panthers, actually going to be a good contrarian move in DFS. And I think you can not only play Barkov or Huberdeau, but looking at a guy like Sam Bennett, who we've seen him break out for a goal and 5 shots multiple times on the season, obviously with this big offense. So Sam Bennett at 4,500 a player. Yeah, again, he's kind of boomer bust, doesn't get you much in the assist department. Yeah, I think he went shotless in the last game, but before that he had 4 shots on goal in each of his last 2 games as well. So Bennett is a real nice boomer bust play. Again, playing the quick start from Florida here, I think is something worth doing tonight. Expecting a close game. I wouldn't be shocked if this one went to overtime either.
Okay, so do you have a favorite bet from that one too?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the overtime prop. If you are looking at the overtime prop from either of these games, it's plus 340 for the Panthers and Lightning to go to overtime. I really don't hate it. What we typically see from teams down 3-0 is they at least make a game of it in game 4. It's just like a pride thing. It's like, okay, the series is probably over. If this is our last stand, this is our last stand. Tampa Bay clearly shown they're just a class above in the playoffs so far, but playing for the Panthers to at least make it close, I don't hate that. And the other prop I don't mind from this game, Florida Panthers to score the first goal, plus 105. Again, this is still the high-powered offense that it was during the regular season. I think at the very least in the first period, you're going to see them throw more shots, come out with a concerted effort to at least put some pressure on Tampa, at least make them work for it. So I really like those 2 props tonight. Obviously, the first goal is a much more reliable prop than the OT, but Panthers plus 105 to score the first goal. If you're looking for a player prop, Sam Reinhart is another player I wouldn't be shocked to show up here. He's plus 120 to go over 2.5 shots on goal. He's averaged right around 3 shots on goal over the playoffs. I like that one. Reinhart, over 2.5 shots on goal, plus 120.
Well, in the other one, Jeff, like Binnington ruled out rest of the series. Are you leaning more towards Colorado because of that?
I mean, I don't think it's like the biggest loss. I mean, what did we see from St. Louis kind of in the second half of the season? They rotated goalies. Like Ville Husso, for long stretches this year, outplayed Jordan Binnington. He basically replaced Binnington as the number one goalie. I know his play down the stretch wasn't that great, and I also know that he looked kind of terrible when he was thrown into the fire against Colorado. But you've got to take that with a grain of salt. Coming off the bench cold and getting thrown into a game versus Colorado, it's just unfair. So I don't think you can judge him on that. You also look at Husso's stats over the course of the regular season. He had a much better save percentage at home, .921 save percentage in home games during the regular season. I think him being at home with that extra mental time to prepare and just knowing that, this is it. There's no one behind Ville Husso coming in to steal the game. We're riding you, kids. So I like Ville Husso's props tonight. I like him going over 31.5 saves. I think you'll see Colorado throw as many shots as him as possible. But I definitely like going over on his save prop. And I also think that you could look towards some of the Blues forwards here. They're looking a little bit undervalued in the player prop department. Vladimir Tarasenko is minus 125 just to score a point. Just a point. That's all we need. Like Tarasenko here. I mean, again, the guy was just red hot down the stretch. I think this is a very good value. So minus 125 for Tarasenko to get on the board. Again, I think the Blues make a game of it here tonight. They really need the split going back into Colorado. They do not want to be down 3-1 to this Avalanche team. So looking at Tarasenko's player prop, and again, Ville Husso to go over his save total.
Yeah, Blues plus 140 on the money line tonight, dude. Hang out because we're going to bring in Colin. We're going to talk some PGA Championship, what went down last week, and whose numbers you like. Yeah, it was interesting yesterday, finally.
It's a good event.
And then, whose numbers do you like coming up this week? Because it's the final stop in Texas, so hang out. All right, guys. Yesterday, we had a Mito meltdown on 18, and Justin Thomas ends up securing his second career major in a playoff against Will Zalatoris. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, DK Nation's Colin Sherwin, they are here for some PGA Tour Chaser Fate. So before we look ahead to this week in Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial Country Club, guys, let's recap what went down yesterday. So the tournament, as Jeff and I were just talking about off camera, felt like a snooze really until late on Sunday. JT knocked off Willie Z in that 3-hole playoff. What impressed you the most, Jeff, about Thomas's second PGA Championship here? He trailed by 7 strokes entering Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's, obviously, look, just pointing to the fact that Justin Thomas was that far down coming in on a Sunday and just managed to get it done. I think the thing that impresses me about Justin Thomas is just how complete a player he's become.
Yeah.
You saw it there in the playoff. The playoff was like a perfect epitome of what Justin Thomas can do. He can do it all. Okay, he drives his ball in the rough. Well, it chips out and he hits a wedge to 5 feet. Oh, we got a drivable par 4. I'll take my 3-wood and put it on the green. Oh, I need a par. I'll lace my drive down the water and then I'll hit my approach. So it's basically impossible for me to 3-putt. Like, he's just a complete player. It's so nice to watch. It's really like he's just at the top of his game. So Justin Thomas obviously grinding out there as well. He's got that mentality that, he's just that good, and eventually it'll happen for him. And it did happen for him last Sunday.
Yeah, Colin, how was Thomas able to seize the moment here?
I think he's just like like Jeff said, best player on the tour right now. I mean, with Scotty Scheffler not playing really well, the balance in his game is extreme. I think this is the point where we go ahead and go to the production and have them play back that I picked Justin Thomas to win this tournament. There's a reason I picked Justin Thomas to win this tournament. He has done it in majors before. He's been close. But the balance in his game, when we knew he'd react well under pressure, it showed in the playoff. That shot on 17 into the green was just unbelievable. I mean, that was some epic golf. So congratulations to him. There is such a thing as a major hangover. I'm going to actually fade him this week at the Colonial because I think, as we saw with Scotty Scheffler, sometimes you win one of these things and it's just so emotionally exhausting to try and get back up on the horse can be really, really challenging. So, but I think Justin Thomas, and it's not just going to be at the PGA. He's going to be in contention this year at the U.S. Open because he's got the game to keep the ball in the fairway. And, he's long enough where he can compete at St. Andrews as well.
I mean, Jeff, someone else is in the field this week. I mean, Pereira is in the field. That swing on 18, he steps up to the 18 tee box, like I was texting you or reading about it. He has a one-shot lead, so you can bogey and you'll end up in a three-man playoff. But what the hell happened there? Like, I can imagine the nerves and what was ripping through his mind at that time.
So, I mean, obviously he's nervous. He even admitted after, like, he thought he had won the tournament, obviously. He thought he was going to win anyways. But the thing about this, and this is what impresses me about this group of players, man. Like, you can throw Cam Young in there as well, and obviously Zalatoris. But like, yes, he was nervous, and yes, the swing was just a little off kilter. But there's no fear from him. I mean, this is a player who won 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour, and I know the first time he won with like an eagle on the final hole. I mean, there's no fear from this guy. And yeah, maybe you could say it cost him down the stretch, but I don't think he gets there without playing with that mentality either. So. It was tough to watch, but this is a player who, I talked about 2 weeks ago at the Byron Nelson. He was my main pick, and it's for a reason. You look at the elite stats like par 4 scoring, efficiency on longer par 4s, just a proximity stats from like mid to long irons. This guy ranks out really well in all of them, and he's an aggressive player, and aggressiveness does tend to pay off eventually on the PGA. Obviously, it hurt him on that one hole. It's kind of a bad break as well, just the way the ball bounced, but yeah. I don't really think it was a case of like him doing something stupid. It was just the swing was tiny bit off kilter. He was trying to do what he did the whole tournament. It just didn't work out.
Well, he was in the winning Millie Maker lineup too for the PGA Championship, Jeff. We'll punch that up here, and I want to ask you what your biggest takeaway is from this lineup. So Thomas, Willie Z, Neiman, Fleetwood, Young, dude. I mean, this is hella good, and lowest owned player is like around 9% there, Fleetwood.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just speaks to the fact that you need to basically trust, what the tee to green stats are kind of telling us. I mean, guys like Young, Mito, and obviously Zalatoris. I mean, you can say, well, they don't have a ton of major championship pedigree, and I think that maybe it hurts them a little bit more in certain other championships like the Opens, but like for the PGA where the setup it's a little bit harder, but it's also longer. I think it just enhances what these guys are already doing. And there's just not as much fear coming out from the younger players of playing in these big events. So, trusting guys like Mito, who again was like really good tee to green at the Byron Nelson, that's kind of what sticks out to me the most. Just these 3 young players who are just, mashing the ball, quite frankly, week to week. And all 3 of them ended up in the winning lineup for what was a really tough setup.
Yeah, Bryce Rizzo winning with 502 points, just one of 3 lineups that actually hit the 500-point mark. Colin Pereira was only $6,700 too. What a home run hit!
Yeah, I had the sweat of a lifetime. I'm not gonna lie. I had Mito at 130 to 1.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and I had him top 5 and top 20 as well, and I wasn't worried there. But I had JT on the one side, and then I had Mito on the other, and so sweat of a lifetime. I was nauseous watching it happen, quite frankly. It was, I agree. If you're going to say he choked anywhere, I don't think he choked off the tee because that was just sort of a bad break. But his drop 2, hit 3, that approach going over the green, that's a ball you got to stick on the green. You got to make 5 there. You got to find a way to scramble and make 5.
Well, yeah, I think driver was a rough choice, right?
Yeah, driver's a rough choice there too. That got a little Mickelson. It wasn't quite a Van de Velde. You know what I mean? It was, but still not good. Probably not the best decision. But again, this kid's a real talent.
Yeah.
You can see it. Complete game. Very calm all week. had a really bad run there on Saturday as well. Between, I think it was 8, 9, and 10. He went bogey, 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 and all three were just sort of like a foot off, and then he spins it back, and he's 50 feet off the green, and things, and he just rolled through it and ended up making some birdies down the stretch as well. So I really like his game. I really like where he's at. Somebody gave me a heads up to him earlier in the week, and that's how I ended up on him. I didn't really know much about the kid, but it looks like he had actually won a tournament as an amateur at Southern Hills as well. So, it was brutal to watch, but I think he's really got a future. He's really got talent. On the other side of that, I think for Zalatoris, this is just another thing where you go, man, can this kid really get it done? Because you could see the putts were left short, they were off. He could not finish, and you could see his heart beating out of his chest. I don't know if he's ready to win yet, but a kid like Pereira, I would continue to ride.
Yeah, I mean, Willie Z, 25, only a matter of time before he gets into the winner's circle. Guys, he plays his best in these major championships. Runner-up at the 2021 Masters, tied for 6th this year at Augusta, tied for 6th at the 2020 U.S. Open, tied for 8th last year's PGA, and now yesterday's runner-up finish. Jeff, Chaser Fade is number of plus 2,000 this week. I mean, the Texan at the final Texas stop of the season.
Yeah, no thanks. Look, I mean, it's not an indignation against Will Zalatoris. He's absolutely fantastic. The tougher the golf course, the better. He can hit those long irons like we saw in the playoff. 6 irons from like 200 yards out, smashes it on the green. But you don't need to do that at Colonial. It's basically like a short to mid iron fest, and then you've just got to sink a bunch of putts. It's not really Will Zalatoris's game the last time I checked. So, for me, it's when you're betting at him at this number, it's not great. You were getting out 50-1 last week. That was great. That was good. That was smart because again, you're saying, well, the bookmakers are saying that Zalatoris can't win in a major championship when actually he actually plays better and he's probably got a better chance when the courses are tougher. So now that everything's shifted. The course is a little bit easier. It's not super easy, but it's not really set up where, again, like Zalatoris is going to be taking advantage of the best parts of his game. And you've got to get red hot with the putter here because everyone's like, it's a very low 3-putt percentage, which you think would help Zalatoris, but it's going to help the field as well. So, a plus 2,000, really this number, it's just way too short. I can list off 5 names here behind him at like plus 3,500. I'd rather bet.
All right, Colin, you said you were going to fade JT, a little hangover there from the PGA Championship. What about the dude who lost to him in the playoff?
Yeah, I'm fading him too. Again, he's close. There's 2 comparisons I want to make here. This is the best ball striker on the tour. This kid can absolutely murder it when he's in a fairway. I truly impressed, but he's got that Tom Watson in his game where like clearly the best ball striker, but just can't make a putt when he needs it. And I just feel like that's going to be something that hangs over him for a while. Remember, these are all things we were saying about Phil Mickelson at 25. Can't win the big one. Can't quite close it out. Can't do this thing. He's going to get better. He's going to be fine. But this is a process. His process is just taking longer than some other players on tour. So he's going to be okay. But no, not this week, not to win. This is going to be emotionally damaging for him. I think he's going to win. He might even win this year. But you're not asking a guy to come off the emotional roller coaster that was Sunday and then come back and play his best golf 4 days later.
Yeah.
Just not happening.
I mean, Ulrich, this is a pretty damn good field for, the week after a major here. And it includes Jason Kokrak, who is last year's winner. So his odds currently in the DK Sportsbook, looking at him at plus 3,500. You want to chase or fade those?
Yeah, I'll fade Kokrak as well. I mean,
oh my God. You guys are fading everybody.
I've faded for the last I've faded Kokrak for the last year and a half. Hasn't worked out, but he's just been. I mean, the putting stroke that Jason Kokrak has found, it's been really impressive. But at the same time, it's just not something that I necessarily want to chase. And look, one of the main reasons, as you mentioned it, it's the depth of field. Like I look at this board and I see Abraham Answer down there at plus 4,000. I just rather bet him, a player who hits every fairway. Really good putting stats on bent grass greens as well. He's finished T14 at this event the last 2 seasons. I just think Answer is a slightly better bet, and you're getting a better number as well. Also, really like the way Answer played last week, had his best ball striking week of the season. So for me, like you look down and there's just a little. I mean, you can even go to Mito or Gary Woodland at plus 5,000. I just think that it's just better plays than going back to Jason Kokrak here. Again, a player who. You can make the case that like he's had his stretch, he's had his due, and maybe it's just time for just like a little bit of regression for the balls not to drop for him on Sunday. So for me, I think the number just isn't big enough for me to like Kokrak. If he was back down there and like switch places with Woodland, I'd probably consider him.
Okay, Colin, you feel the same?
I do. Kokrak has finished first and third in this event. Both times he was in the last 2 years. Both times he was minus 14. But again, he's not playing his best golf right now. He did win the HP Open this year, but since then, and that was in November, a lot of like T15 to T35 range, just not a lot of wins, missed a cut with T60 last week at the PGA. I think he's probably a bit of a fade, but I would like him in like a top 20 situation. This is a course he knows well. He's going to feel comfortable, putt well. So right now at plus 10, I believe he's plus 330 to finish top 10 this week. That's something I would like a little bit more than for him to straight up win. I think he can put a number on the board. Whatever he is at top 20, I think would be interesting as well. But yeah, this doesn't seem like a great spot for him to come back and win this week. And again, like these guys, I'm telling you, especially in courses like this where these guys are just so good now. You just have to you got to get a little lucky. You got to have some breaks as well. And I just don't think Kokrak's playing right now well enough to win this thing again.
All right, Colin. So Thomas, top of the board. We know you're fading him. There's Scheffler at plus 1,000. And then let's go to another Texan, Jordan Spieth, plus 1,200. You want to chase or fade him this week at that number?
This is tough. So he won in New Orleans. He finished second at the Byron Nelson. Everything seemed to be coming together for him. And then he did the Spieth thing, which is he put up big numbers on certain holes, and he T34 this week. This is less likely that he's going to blow up on a course that he knows really well and has performed well. And since 2016, this is how he's finished in this event: 7th, 14th, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 32nd, 8th, 10th, and 2nd. That seems like a guy you want to bet at plus money at top 140 or for top 10. So plus 140 at top 10 this week. I really like that for Spieth. I actually like that a little bit more than him finishing to win. But I do think he plays well this week. I think he puts a number on the board. He still knows there's 2 majors left this year. And even though the one that could complete his career Grand Slam is gone, he thinks about major trophies. So, of course, he knows well. Backyard. Clearly his track record here, and you're getting plus money. I'll take him plus at top 10 for plus 140.
Jeff, he struggled at Southern Hills, but had some tremendous driving and decent ball striking. Maybe he got too hot too soon.
Yeah, I mean, look, these guys tend to go through peaks and valleys, even when they're playing well, right? Like you can't play your absolute pinnacle of golf every week. Spieth, obviously, first and second. He's already got a win on the season. I think that at this number, if I'm looking to one of the favorites this week, I'm probably going to lean Colin Morikawa over any of them. Morikawa, he started the season a little bit slow. He didn't really start slow. He just had that little rough stretch where he missed the cut at the Players and kind of the Valspar, but he's bounced back pretty nicely. The results haven't been off the charts or anything, but clearly gaining strokes off the tee. The approaches are starting to get there. He gained 7 strokes on approach at the Heritage, another really tightly intertwined classic course. And Morikawa has shown us that he likes these setups. I mean, he lost in a playoff here against Daniel Berger in 2020, was top 10 here last season as well. He's really just got to find the putting stroke this week. And again, as we saw with John Rahm in Mexico, eventually with these top players, they'll figure it out. And we know Morikawa can figure out the greens. He's not the most consistent putter, but he will spike for those big weeks. I think if you're looking at the top of the board, you can't love the number. You really wish that, you could get him at plus 1,800 or something. But when you look at this field, it's really the top 4 players and then kind of everyone else, it feels like. And Morikawa is the guy I feel the most confident about. We mentioned the hangover with Thomas. Scheffler probably just, still a little bit high off the Masters win. I'll take Morikawa over Spieth this week. I think that's the way to play it.
All right, guys. Well, speaking of hangover, we have your NASCAR rival, Jeff Pierce Dietrich, standing by for some NFL hangover. We're going to overreact to some of the latest NFL headlines right after this quick break. Thanks for the help, guys. Okay, our in-house NASCAR expert, Pierce Dietrich, going to put his football hat on right now for some NFL hangover. Let's go ahead and overreact. Latest NFL news and notes. Big difference from last year here. Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell spending some time last week applauding second-year quarterback Kellen Mond in OTAs. Kirk Cousins, he's going to be the starter there. That's Reed T. Favorite's favorite quarterback of all time. Who benefits the most from this new system?
Are we really going to overreact to a coach praising the backup?
Absolutely. That's big,
I
dude.
guess we will. Maybe Kirk Cousins' feelings have gotten hurt, but you know what? Facts don't care about your feelings. Kirk Cousins needs to play more or play better. Yeah, he could lose his job, but I think we are overreacting to just a simple compliment. Everything doesn't have to be Machiavellian. It's just a simple praise, right? But instead here, there are no angels. It's only angles, and so we look for something and read between the lines. Yeah, you know what? Maybe Kirk's on his way out. Maybe he's going to Seattle. This guy is a second-round pick, and we've seen plenty of second-round picks play well.
Yep.
I mean, Kirk himself is a fourth-round pick, so I can understand the Vikings fans wanting to root for the next best thing. Fans always love the next quarterback. The next quarterback's going to be the better quarterback. Maybe they need to take some notes from New England, see how that's worked out for them. Maybe Kirk Cousins is the best thing that they've got going. But, hey, you know what? Trade him away. Let's go with the new guy.
All right. Love it, man. There he is. There's the Pierce Dietrich we know and love. Let's go to another new coaching staff here. So Brian Daboll, look at this. He's given offensive coordinator Mike Kafka an audition during OTAs for play calling here, which means the responsibility really has yet to be decided. Is this a big deal for Daniel Jones and the Giants? It kind of feels like you want to have more of a plan in place right now, no?
What is this? An audition during OTA?
Right?
What does that even look like? If he either knows how to call plays or he doesn't know how to call plays, just ask him. Go through his process. What are you going to learn in OTAs? You probably got a better shot of picking Kafka's mind by playing him in Madden than watching him, call plays in OTAs. Daboll's going to be the play caller. Kafka could eventually be a great offensive coordinator. He doesn't have any experience yet. He's never called plays before. It would be a smart move to let him kind of learn on the job. Maybe halfway through the season he's calling plays. Maybe next year he's calling plays. But it's not happening anytime soon. This is just a show. By the way, Kafka was great on NCAA football, if you remember him from Northwestern days.
Yeah, I remember those games back in the day. That game's not around anymore, though. I don't think. Hopefully it comes back. Let's go to the Patriots, though. It's a weird situation on their offensive coaching staff as well, because you got like a guy who's more of a defensive dude, and then like a special teams guy, Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. They're reportedly the potential play callers here. How worried should we be about the New England offense? Because the report this weekend, Pierce, was that some players are, quote, alarmed with the difference between the uncertainty here.
This is classic Boston media worrying when they don't need to worry. It's really not a big deal, guys. It's nothing. Bill Belichick, I don't know, he's got a bit of a track record. I think the guy knows what he's doing. He knows what's going to happen. Here's a news flash, and I know New England fans don't want to admit this yet, but you're a running team. You run the ball, and it really doesn't matter who the offensive coordinator is. If you're going to run a counter, a sweep, off tackle, it's not really going to be that dynamic. So Judge can be the offensive coordinator. Any of those guys can call the plays. They're going to be fine. I think people are worried or alarmed because they want Mac Jones to throw 5,000 yards and 45 touchdown passes. Maybe that happens someday, but you need to go back to your roots. When you were winning Super Bowls and playing regular New England football, that's what you need to do. Maybe Judge is the key to that.
Okay. Could you see some regression there from Mac Jones?
Yeah, I think Jones is going to be fine.
Right.
But people want him to be the MVP Tom Brady throwing to Randy Moss and Wes Welker. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
Just win games.
Give me those record-breaking 2007 numbers. Which new coaching staff, Pierce, will have the biggest impact on an offense from a fantasy perspective here?
Mike McDaniel in Miami is intriguing, but not necessarily because of him or his coaching style, but simply because Miami's brought in a lot of talent on the offensive side. They've improved their offensive line with Terron Armstead. That was a big problem. We know they've got Tyreek Hill. Chase Edmonds is there as well. That really could open up to Tua having a breakout season. And then obviously we got to go to Jacksonville with Peterson taking over. Anything is going to be an upgrade over Urban Meyer. They've made improvements all over the offensive side of the ball. You've got Trevor Lawrence going to be much better in his second year, especially with a better offensive line and with better weapons, in my opinion. So Jacksonville, definitely expect him to have some big growth this year.
Yeah, I've been saying I think he should be considered for like Rookie of the Year awards because that last season should not count under Urban Meyer. Let's get you out here with this. Around a minute to go in the show. Reported holding pattern here with Baker Mayfield in regards to his future. So Panthers, Seahawks reportedly interested. His salary, Deshaun Watson's future. There's still issues. But how much does Mayfield help the Panthers? How much does Mayfield help Seattle here in terms of fantasy? If, just hypothetically speaking, wherever he ends up.
The Panthers doesn't really seem like an option after they drafted a quarterback. Maybe there's a possibility, but that's just too many quarterbacks on that team. Seattle is still there. Part of me, though, is still rooting for him to be the starting quarterback in Cleveland at the beginning of the season, especially after not partying with the team in the Bahamas last week. Come week one, he ends up being the starter because of other issues. I mean, that's pure Fire Elmo GIF, right? That's what I'm rooting for. That's chaos. That's actually my 3-year-old son's favorite GIF. He loves the Fire Elmo. I couldn't be more proud of him. So that's what I'm rooting for. Starting week one, Baker Mayfield in Cleveland.
Dude, give me absolute chaos. That would be like the most Brown things ever, dude. You absolutely nailed that, Pierce. Appreciate the help, man. Everyone, Madden's coming up next here on the DraftKings YouTube and Twitch channels at high noon. And then you're going to have the slate tonight, 5 o'clock with Jeff and Glash. And then we're going to have this show back here in studio tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.